In a recent interview, the CEO of Twitter revealed that for half an hour a day, he likes to retreat to what's called a Faraday Sauna. Now this is a $5,500 YMS tent, and the reason he goes in there is to escape the radiation created by everyday electrical equipment. Now I quite like this story because clearly this guy is very rich and very mad, so there's a chance he become a sort of Batman type figure. Actually, before I get going, in all the adaptations of Batman, it always surprised me how few people knew who he actually was. Because Batman is a guy who's clearly rich and mental, who spends his evenings dressed as a bat knocking the shit out of criminals and has access to a fuckload of military equipment. But there weren't people going, do you reckon that's Bruce Wayne? Same thing happened in the first Iron Man film though, didn't it? Got a guy in a metal suit flying around, knows a lot about weapons. Oh, that'll be Tony Stark. But if you want a Faraday sauna but you haven't got $5.5 grand to go on a tent, don't worry, if you own a car that's got a roof, you already own a Faraday cage, and that's the same thing. But this claim that it blocks out radiation, well yes it could, but I couldn't work out why would anyone want to. And everything electrical gives off a certain amount of radiation, whether it be a toaster, a light bulb, a toothbrush. But then I started thinking, I got this horrible realisation that this harks back to a ridiculous conspiracy theory from about 20 years ago. Now Mr. Twitter's quite clearly mad, but he's rich and mad, so that's okay. That's called eccentric. But there are still people who believe that mobile phones are going to kill us all. Now, 20 years ago, when they got really popular, every fucking newspaper was running these endless scare stories. If you were a guy and you kept a phone in your pocket, it would make you infertile. If you had a conversation on your mobile or cell phone for more than 3 minutes, you'd instantly die of a brain tumour. And by the mobile phone masts or cell towers, if you're from the USA, well, you know, kids were being born with 3 heads and whole flocks of birds would just burst into flames as they went past them. And all of it was unsubstantiated. In fact, there was one story which was published in a lot of the newspapers that said if you got 2 mobile phones and put an egg in between them, the egg would be cooked by the radiation from the phones. Now, I've tried this, and what happens is if you put an egg between 2 mobile phones, you have an egg between 2 mobile phones. Nothing happens, and I sort of wanted that one to be true. Because like everyone else, I've got a drawer full of old Nokias. It'd be much cheaper to do the cooking with them than turn the oven on. If it worked, I'd be happy to, you know, fire up my old Nokia 3210. In fact, I haven't used that for about 12 years, but the battery's probably still okay. Old Nokias were amazing. You only had to charge them about once a year, and they were fucking indestructible. But looking online last night, there are still people who I thought must have all gone off to believe that the Earth is flat, who sleep in these metal tents so they don't get affected by the radiation. And a lot of them recorded videos. They're here on YouTube. Have a look. It's hilarious. Because all of them, they'll have got hold of some cheap electrical meter that can pick up background radiation. And they film themselves approaching a mobile phone. But they do it like they've got a Geiger counter at Chernobyl and reactor number 4's just fucking exploded. Last night I was watching it, saying at the laptop, you're not at Fukushima, it's fine. If you're that worried, don't have a fucking mobile phone or just switch it off. Now, I'm not saying, oh, there's another thing. In the last 30 years, there have been over 25,000 studies on whether mobile phones are detrimental to our health through radiation. Not one of them has proved that they are. I mean, there are a few spikes. Every now and again there'll be a cluster, a coincidence. There'll be a new cell tower goes up and a few people on that street then get cancer. But that's a coincidence. But if you're a conspiracy nut, that's fine. There could be 1,000 studies, but if there's one that says it could be dangerous, a lot of confirmation bias, and you know, all the others, it's the government hushing it up. The government do a lot of that to conspiracy nuts, which is remarkable, given their track record on everything else. I mean, don't get me wrong, a mobile phone can kill you very quickly. If you text and drive, you're going to fucking die and kill someone else in the process. But I started this talking about a guy who runs a social media company. Now, if you find yourself on your mobile or cell phone and you feel quite ill, like you're being eaten away from the inside, the chances are you're just on fucking Twitter.